Welcome back to Donkey Kong Country. We're in part 2, and to start us off with a little bit of factoid, this is, along with Super Mario All-Stars Plus World, one of the first 2 games I ever owned.
Huh. Nice. What time are we at?
No, I'm absolutely serious. I told this story time and time again throughout the years, but yeah, this was also one of my first. It wasn't the first, but it was also one of the first that I've owned for my Super Nintendo, and it was also one of the last games I would own for the Super Nintendo before
The Cell.
So
Before the great PlayStation apocalypse?
before the great PlayStation apocalypse, yeah. So you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that don't know, I would just reiterate real quickly here. I had a Super Nintendo growing up, and when we moved in with Steven around late 1995, early 1996, that's when the PlayStation 1 was making its rounds. It was the hot new commodity, and he wanted one for the house. And I was the only one that had another console in the house, he figured it was okay, behind my back, to take in the majority of my library, trade it in for credit at FuncoLand, I guess, back in the day, and use that to, put towards a PlayStation 1. I felt betrayed, but I still was able to keep my Donkey Kong Country, Final Fantasy 3 or 6, and I want to say that was it. And the rest is history, you could say. I hated him for it at first until we actually started playing PlayStation 1. And if it wasn't for that move, I would have never been a Sony fan.
Yeah. Well, it could have been worse. You could have gotten an N64, which didn't do quite as well in the long term.
Well, I mean, the N64 is still a good system.
It's a good... Well, I dispute the good system part on a hardware standpoint, okay?
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's like usually when Nintendo systems have like a hardware disadvantage, they make up for it by being better in terms of the library. But for several generations there, it was the PlayStation. It was the PlayStation that could claim some amount of that up until the Xbox stole the crown. Jesus, but yeah, I mean, PlayStation 2 is the weakest goddamn system of the bunch in that generation. And
doesn't matter if it's got
the library was so amazing, yes. And then the fucking Xbox 360 was burning its own guts out, but didn't matter to most people because the library was there.
Yeah, it's like that's why I was never too particularly bummed out that I didn't have an N64 growing up, because besides maybe Mario 64 and especially Smash Brothers and maybe Pokemon Stadium, I felt like I wasn't really missing much. I was perfectly content with Crash Bandicoot and my PlayStation Underground samplers and Final Fantasy 7 and 9. That's all I really needed. What the hell did the N64 have? It had Quest 64.
The N64.
Can you guys think of anything else?
N64.
Let's see. N64 also had let's see, Bomberman 64 and Hero.
Well, we're talking about, I think John's referencing RPGs.
Just RPGs.
Yeah,
RPGs.
Okay, then no, it had Paper Mario, and that's it.
It had Paper Mario.
Okay, Paper Mario.
It would have had Mother 3, but the plans changed.
Yeah, drastically.
I can't really think of anything else. Yeah, it just turned out for those kind of games, the CD drive was just a better option. Yeah, I can't think, and a lot of RPGs around that time were also being developed for PC, because that format lent itself well to those kind of games in a different way. Huh. Interesting. But, the N64 and the GameCube had this weird sort of thing going on where the libraries
the N64 had a better library than the N64.
What?
What?
Sorry, the GameCube had a better library than the N64.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, it definitely did, but they both had this sort of thing where their libraries fell short of the competition, but they also had a lot of influential games on them, so...
Well, I think the GameCube had a better library than the Xbox.
Yes, it did. I mean, what...
Xbox had the better versions of multi-platform games for the most part.
Yeah, it did. The Xbox was quite powerful, and when it did have a multi-platform game like a Legacy of Kain title or whatever, it was generally superior to the PlayStation's version. But when it came to exclusives, let's see, what did it have? Halo. It had Fable, which was a massive disappointment, mostly because Peter Molyneux cannot shut his mouth.
Blinks the time sweeper.
Blinks the time sweeper.
It also had Fusion Frenzy, which was okay.
It was an okay party game.
Yeah.
It
was no Mario Party.
Yeah.
The Xbox is...
But it was a decent...
The Xbox is probably best trait in comparison to the other systems at the time was that it could actually do proper widescreen through component. And
Well, it also had the easiest and best internet connection capabilities.
Well, I mean, all the systems could, but it was the system on which games actually did it more often. Like...
Yeah.
You stick that into a widescreen TV today, and your games can look pretty damn good. Whereas if you do the same with the PlayStation 2, more often than not, it's gonna come out as an interlaced piece of shit. You know,
GameCube,
with a shitload of latency.
GameCube, you need an expensive composite cable.
Component cable.
Sorry.
Composite's the old AV. The component cable it costs as much as a console in itself, but for some bizarre reason it is slightly worth it because apparently the GameCube does better component output than the Wii. I don't understand that, but it does. It's a very strange.
That's bizarre.
It's a very strange technical difference between the two.
The GameCube is a very weird system because it had the capability to connect to the internet. You could pirate the shit out of everything by using it, which is why Nintendo immediately discontinued it once they realized that.
Yeah.
Because how the GameCube works, I'm sure we've gone over this at some point in a previous video, but the way the GameCube works is that it takes anything from the disc and loads it into the console's RAM. This basically means you can, once the game is loaded, you can basically open the game, take the disc out, and you're still playing it just fine. This basically is the main reason how Animal Crossing works on that system.
Oh.
Well, it helps that just quick add name in there. It helps that Animal Crossing's total RAM usage is less than the internal memory of the game.
Yeah,
which is why it's able to do that.
Yeah, but that's how most games work on the GameCube.
Only if their RAM didn't exceed the system's memory. You can't do that with a lot of games.
You know,
you can do it with most of the library though, which meant once you connected to the internet, all you had to do was have a ROM file of it, and then start the system up with a disk, have it read from the internet, but have it read that file. The GameCube would think, oh, it's loading, I don't know, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, even though you don't own it. You can just stop the disk at that point, and now you're playing Fire Emblem Path of Radiance on your GameCube.
Interesting.
Which is why they stopped producing that, because piracy would have been rampant on the system if everyone could get it.
Would have been worse than the Dreamcast.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's weird because piracy around that time seems like it was oddly easier and harder at the same time. Because, well, obviously the internet's not quite as prevalent, but at the same time, people could make discs that worked or pull the Nintendo RAM trick, and you know, it's just interesting to think about. I'm probably gonna look up more information.
Yeah, there was usually some sort of hurdle you had to cross to like pirate games, or at least like play imports without having to invest in third-party tools.
Imports, yeah, the good version of Final Fantasy X that we didn't get. Or the final mixes.
Much later.
Yeah, until...
I struggle, I hesitate good.
Well, you know, I say good
version,
as in
sure.
the level up system actually has choices and non-linear progression for your characters. I don't really care for the endgame final bosses, but like...
Sure.
Endgame final bosses in Final Fantasy always suck. The ones in 10 International just suck harder. So... So, you know, I'm not really going to give it a huge knock for that in the context of the series. It's like, okay, yeah, you like Omega Weapon, but basically you're going to cheese your way through it by abusing invincibility, aren't you? I bet you feel so clever looking that strategy up on the internet.
You piece of shit.
Did you go to Squaresoft's official site for the guide?
Yeah, play online.
Hey, you know what? I discovered how to abuse invincibility against Omega Weapon on my own. You don't have to. You don't. There's more than one way in the game to do it. Okay, I didn't need to look it up. I feel like I accomplished something, but even then, the boss was not fun. So, yeah. Ugh. Man.
I mean,
I've been holding that in for 25 goddamn years. 25 years? Wait, I wasn't 5 when I played.
Yeah, I was like, what, 25?
More like
game's not that old.
more like 15 years, but you know.
What was Lewis's first words? Fuck super
Hey,
bosses.
Final Fantasy VIII was my first RPG, so I have nostalgic
poor
attachment to it, but also some righteous nostalgic rage.
Yeah, that's I think the best people get out of that game.
Righteous nostalgia.
It's not the flaming pile of garbage trash that a lot of people call it.
No,
but
I don't think it's terrible, but it's awfully dull.
it's got very broken aspects to its mechanics, and it can be played in some very boring ways if you realize them while you're playing. And unfortunately, one of those boring ways is a way that's very easy for young children to realize. Spam the shit out of the long-ass summon animations and hope for the best.
I mean, to get back to a point a little bit earlier, yeah, there's nostalgic rage, John. There are games you remember from back in the day that you just get angry about remembering.
It was more so like righteous nostalgic rage. Just like, you're not the righteous.
Well, you know,
I mean, there's that too.
I get angry at Final Fantasy VIII the same way I get angry at a family member who I know from my childhood who was really annoying, but I love them anyway. That kind of thing. But, what were we talking about? Console generations or some shit?
Too distracted by fucking sneezes that you're likely editing out, but let me know that I'm sneezing my ass off.
But now I have to leave them in.
Oh
no,
don't
he's gone to
do
red,
that.
he's moving 3 times faster. That's another nostalgic call.
Well, yeah,
That's another VSC classic. Although, to be fair, that joke outdates all of us, so...
Yeah. But, you know...
Though at the time of this uploading, they're redubbing Evangelion for Netflix, apparently.
It's not Ava, it's a Gundam reference, but...
It's a Gundam? Oh, no, but, you know, I just feel like it's another classic BSC reference, because, you know, for a while we were all over Ava.
Yeah.
And now, at the time of this
Man,
upload, it's being uploaded to Netflix.
I'm so glad we get fucking Evangelion, the most confusing anime on the planet, for Netflix, but Daredevil is cancelled.
And yet, because it's Netflix, we're never going to get a Blu-ray of Ava.
A Blu-ray of Ava? I want a Blu-ray of Daredevil, okay? Fuck Ava.
Wait, are you talking about the Ben Affleck?
Fuck the Ben Affleck movie, too.
No, there's Blu-rays of Netflix Daredevil.
I have... there are?
Yeah.
Oh, I need those. I need those in my life right now. Is it the whole series? Or just
I know
early
there's at least 1 and 2.
Okay, good. Okay, I have a point of extreme anger with the Ben Affleck movie, though, and since we're on it, I'm going to air that shit out right now.
Is it rightness nostalgic rage?
It's just nostalgic rage.
Yeah.
In the theatrical release of that movie, they added a sex scene in a place where a sex scene has no business being, and it basically makes Matt Murdock a horny asshole. Like, you know, someone needs help. Over there, I can hear them being mugged, but, you know, I'm just gonna have sex with fucking Electra right now.
Toxic waste fucked my eyesight, so now I'm gonna fuck you.
Yeah, they added that to the theatrical release and cut out the part where he actually leaves Electra on the rooftop and goes to help. So if you're watching the extended version, you get the part where Matt Murdock sticks to his fucking principles. But if you watched it in a movie theater, no. No. Just no. Not my Daredevil.
I'll tell you though, if you're not recording this at a proper bitrate, this level is nearly fucking impossible to see.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Imagine Sonic 2 Shield, but the entire level.
You know what? I think I remember this from the first time.
Yeah,
actually,
back since it was the very start of BSC, that was when I was doing my Dazzle. Because on top of that, I had to I was using a Mac, and for some reason the Dazzle didn't really work properly. It wouldn't record the audio right, so I had a splitter for the Pinnacle, for the Pinnacle Studio, and recorded the audio separately in Audacity. And in editing, I had to set up the audio completely separately. It was fun. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
That sounds
Yeah.
a little like...
I am looking at part 6 right now of the original Donkey Kong Country commentary, and it's like someone put semen in my eye. It's that fucking bad.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That was an image I didn't need. Okay. You know...
You're welcome. You want me to use saliva? It's more PG.
Editing hurdles like that aren't completely gone with modern hardware, though. Like, depending on your computer, things can get a little unreliable. For the entire frickin' Resident Evil 2 remake playthrough, I had to make an audio file of every video and then edit the audio file over the video file again in Sony Movie Studio, because there was like this weird glitch in the audio file that wouldn't play right in Premiere and Movie Studio at all. And I had to use, like, what was it? DaVinci Resolve? Yeah, I used DaVinci Resolve to make an audio-only version of the video, and then put the audio for that over top of the video to get around that. It's really convoluted. I really just wish those programs would learn to skip a bad audio bit and go on as usual.
Every time I encoded a video for old school BrainScratch, I felt like I was just rolling the fucking dice because I was still learning editing software at that point, because I only was familiar with Windows Movie Maker around the early days.
Ouch.
Do you remember, John, how, like, my computer just shat the bed at the end of the Sonic 06 playthrough?
Yeah.
And you
still haven't recovered from that, from if I recall correctly.
You had to play all the way up to where I was to finish recording it for me. And that was like...
But it's okay, I like that game, so...
I mean, yeah, you do.
You like the Sonic part of that game, and that is not the part you needed to record.
Yeah, I know, but nobody believes that, so... But no, I remember, like, back then it was considered like a humongous deal to, like, encode the video properly so that you wouldn't get the standard 30 frame per second frame rate issues. And we bring up Sonic 2 all the time for good reason, because back then Sonic's shield either only half appeared or covered his entire fucking body.
And then when he himself was blinking after taking a hit, he would be invisible half the time.
Yeah, like half of the time.
The other half of the time, you wouldn't know he was still blinking because he's just there.
Solid.
And I remember, like, one of the first videos that I edited for BrainScratch where we kind of got around that issue was Sonic 2, and it was the video when we went through Casino Night Zone. The video looks like fucking shit.
There are other issues brought about by that too, like the wheel of feet doesn't display properly half the time.
No, because yeah, just how fast it's moving.
It's another case where the graphics blink. So yeah,
I felt like I was such like a technical genius when I exported that part, and it's like, oh my god, we can actually see the shield and Sonic the Hedgehog at the same time. What is happening? And haven't been able to replicate it since, until 60 frames per second video uploads became standard.
Yeah.
You had to learn what codecs were.
And that wouldn't happen until like 2014.
Nowadays, the big problems for YouTube uploads are, what format can I upload this video in so that YouTube's video compression doesn't make it look like a piece of shit? And I still haven't found a consistent answer to that.
I just use H.264.
Oh, H.264 is a whole broad category of rendering options, okay?
True.
And, like, depending on what you're recording, you can still wind up getting screwed over by YouTube's video compression, which, like, doesn't like the color red for some reason. Like, that's something that winds up screwing up Horizon Zero Dawn recordings a fair bit.
I haven't seen anything regarding Horizon Zero Dawn, because I was going to mostly say that that would probably more depend on what your source file was.
Yeah, and you know what, though? Like, I've seen people upload pristine 60 frames per second 1080 footage, and I don't know how to do it without making the actual upload like 1440 fucking progressive, and just...
Or having a rendering time of 3 hours.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Movie Studio can do 1440 without taking too long about it. An hour and a half, 2 hours maybe.
God, I do not miss those fucking days where a part itself would... Oh... So, like, because my computers back then were absolute potatoes of hardware. Like, I'm pretty sure...
I remember you were so excited when you replaced that goddamn thing with a more modern machine.
With a more modern machine, or when I finally built my own thing. But no, back in the day, it was... My upload speeds were absolute shit. And a single part would take an hour and a half to upload. And that's before even processing.
early on when I wasn't at Tech, when I had to upload stuff, it would take like a good 3 to 4 hours to upload.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that's improved about that is mostly on the internet provider side, though. Like, we just have better connections in general now, at least unless we live in the country or something.
I still miss Georgia Tech's internet, second fastest internet in the United States behind the Pentagon.
Really?
Yes.
You're not shitting me here?
Nope.
So
It was so good.
I guess I know where we're going if there's a Revolutionary War. Fucking Georgia Tech. Just, armor the building up like the Pentagon. There's your rebellion headquarters right there. Okay.
Best part of the college experience right there.
Yeah. You just have to deal with living in the same state as Georgia's government.
Yeah.
And depending on how privileged you are, the crippling debt afterwards.
This is
I was one of the last groups of people to get the Hope Scholarship. So
what you're witnessing right now is another long lost classic BSA callback. Me not sounding upset about everything I say.
One of the last to get the Hope Scholarship, and look where you are now.
Yep.